Good morning, Sri Lanka. You're back with us on the show. It's a great morning to be talking about eco-friendly design. And if you're going into any new constructions that might be happening in your life very soon, or a new home that you're planning on, planning and building and creating, then we're going to be speaking about some new concepts and some great ways of incorporating a great long-term investment into your building designs. And we have with us 3 chartered architects who will be speaking about this. Now, I think I changed your profession in the first segment, but I have to correct that now and just make sure that everyone knows we're speaking to architects. But I'm sure right now that anyone who's been tuned in so far on the show has realized what we're speaking about, because this is a very important topic, and this is something that the world is focusing on, as you mentioned. And these are maybe concepts that have been there in our culture before, but now there's a name to it and there's a lot of focus on it. So if we go into buildings specifically, let's speak about what is an eco-friendly building or a green home. If anyone could take up that question.
Okay, if you try to answer, we can answer this way actually. Green means a minimum damage to the environment. That's what the concept says. But actually, truly speaking, green won't consider only the environment impact. That means we are considering the health and well-being of the occupants as well. And therefore, when you are putting up a house, it's not a matter of we are doing something eco-friendly. We are trying to have a health and well-being of the people who are occupying that house. Right? Therefore, what we try to do is we are trying to minimize the damage to the environment at the time of construction, at the same time in the operation, and you have to enhance the life of the people who are inhabiting that particular house or building. That's what the green building concept is about. So we are stress in our day-to-day environment. That is also part of green building concept. We have to minimize that stress, right? We are having all office stress, our home stress, whatever. We can't balance our work life, workload and everything. Therefore, it has to be balanced, and we have to minimize that stress. Therefore, all this green concept, along with the environmental concerns, we try to make us something, a house like a home. That's what the green concept is all about.
I see. So some people might have the misconception that this is just something that will benefit the environment, but it's actually something that benefits the people who live in the house as well. But if you could elaborate more about the connection between the design of a home and maybe minimizing stress and the living and improving the living conditions of the people who live in the home, how do you draw that line between the two? As architects.
Yeah, actually, if I am to answer that again, for example, into environmental quality, right? For example, we have to get more fresh air, right? Because we are breathing. There's a high carbon dioxide generation when we breathe because of number of activities, right? Inside the building, there's a high CO2 levels. But if you have to breathe those, we are getting sick actually. We are inefficient. You can get good ventilation. That is one part of it. At the same time, if you get good lighting condition, probably through the natural lighting, we can minimize the energy, right? Non-renewable energy. Likewise, there are many aspects at that. We have to go for a passive design, right? And then we can go for a what is called active solution. For example, air conditioning is an active solution. Whereas if you can go for passive ventilation system, it could have been eliminated. That's what.
Is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
To add to that, I would say, as Ravi said, natural light and ventilation is very important. But in today's context, in the city, it's a challenge to get natural light and ventilation because everybody is building, back to back or something. So it's a challenge for the designer and the architect as soon as the client comes in with a site on how we actually place the building, where we place it, what we call the footprint, or or are we going to leave a lot of green space or open space. That even if it is a small site, we try to leave as much as possible open space, and then maybe build up and give them a garden on top, say on the top level, right? So that we're giving them green as well, and again good light and ventilation, and some place to come back where they would like to come back to, and they feel comfortable and be themselves, but in these conditions, and as much as possible, trees and shade, shade also creates cooling inside the home. So all that is, I think, very important.
But what are the
If I may add something to what Michelle said now, to say we are just discussing about this green as why. Basically, climate change is the main problem that world is facing today. Right? So all these efforts by the architects, other professional, green professional, environment professional, is to face that challenge. Right? So where we discussed about the building, there an involvement of an architect is very important. This is where an architect should be very sensitive to these issues. So if an architect is trained that way, and if he is sensitive to that way, he can start things with the design. Otherwise you do a design and you create problem, then you try to solve that. Right? Rather than doing that, it should be a kind of a holistic approach where an architect can come into the picture and come up with the initial decisions, like the passive designing decision, like how to use energy, light, natural ventilation, how you orientate. Those basic decisions can be taken first in the right manner. Then the next things, the other phase is very easy, right? Through that we can use the technology. We can use the technology to our advantage, because there are a lot of technological development that has happened over a period of time. Those we can use for the advantage of everybody. But the important thing is the involvement of an architect in a more sensitive manner, right, from the inception of the design. So that will definitely help to take these efforts forward.
So do you find that the clients that you have coming for you, or anyone who asks you for some advice, they are aware of these concepts, or is it something where the architect has to take the first step in really promoting these concepts to implement them?
I would say now, let's say, take 5 years back, it would have been different. But now, take even a house or any other building, the use of energy. The energy, the electricity tariff is going up. So
of course, that is a concern for everyone, I think.
Feel it, really. So they look at the alternatives. This is where, an architect will have to advise, right, in the right manner to incorporate those aspects into the design. Because our architect has the necessary ingredients to do that. I think little bit of this green knowledge will be an additional tool for them to perform their task.
Actually, if you have to take some of the buildings, we don't have to name by the building, but still some buildings are consuming about millions of electricity. That means there are certain buildings more than 20 million, 40 million monthly electricity bills. Therefore, I don't think you can imagine such building, but there are many in Colombo. It is pretty unimaginable right now. There are many in Colombo. That is why actually the once you get into this particular cost factors, people will really realize, okay, we have to do something with that. That is the way that they are being convinced. But we as architects or we are the construction sector professionals, we are convincing them cost means, right, indirectly the energy consumption, right? And at the same time water bills, all these particular utility bills, right, indirectly convince us that we have to go for sustainability. But still that is not the way to convince, but that is the more or less how the general public is getting convinced. That's the thing. But we as architects trying to convince our clients from the beginning, this is what, therefore you can be a part of the environmental friendly group. At the same time you can save yourself, right, in terms of tariff, all your cost benefits, all these things are there, and you can be there in a healthy building at the same time, right? You don't have this thing called sick building syndrome, actually. That means when you are living in whatever the space, there are many pollutants, many gases, everything is forms inside. If you are inhale that one, you are becoming sick, right? If you can minimize such conditions, and we can refer that as a green building, right? Therefore there are many approaches like that. That's what we are trying to do.
So people really do have to realize that this is a long-term investment, isn't it? Because some people may be very hesitant to sort of implement these things because they say there are high startup costs, or it's just going to take too much out of our pocket to do these things, so why go for it? There are misconceptions like that. So how do you address it when they come up with these problems?
I think some clients already are aware. They are aware of what's happening, and as Ravi said, when their bills, even in a house, when their bills are pretty expensive, let's say over even 40,000 or what electricity bills, then they themselves are looking at options and going for things like net metering, where they have the solar panels, and it's a high cost, but within about a 6-year period or 7, they will recover that amount. So they don't mind going for that, because that will be a saving for them in the long run. So they're wise to those facts, and they're beginning to,
So awareness is everything, isn't it?
I think the main thing is awareness. I think that's where, especially as an institution, Sri Lanka Institute of Architects had been having many programs to educate. We had about, let's say, during the last 5 years, we had about 3 conferences on sustainability, just to educate our members as well as public, as well as the policy makers, especially the policy makers also, so that they they'll be aware as to what's to be done. So that again, there are many things that Sri Lanka Institute of Architects had done to educate the public as well as the membership, so that they are ready. They are ready for any. At any time they are ready to face these challenges. So in that sense, they have trained some young architects on this green as green professionals right now. They are working on this, and this awareness is the key thing, and it should be a kind of, as I said, a integrated approach by everybody, like the professionals, architects, engineers, and even public, policy makers. I think that's the effort that we are making now.
I think the Sri Lanka Institute of Architects, even where students are concerned, they were having some career guidance program in our exhibition, annual exhibition, and we also take it to the schools, if possible, outstations, to make them aware that there is
all
this
of these are steps taken to increase the awareness, as you mentioned. But if now our viewers at home have heard about these concepts, and if they are interested in building a green home, then what's the first step that they should take, and where do you go from there?
Actually, you have to consult an architect at the first. That is the first thing to do. After that, all our architects are well aware of this particular concept.
I see.
Therefore, they will convince you, and this is what that you are supposed to do. Therefore, that is the first step. Whatever the time when you go to the architect, once you give your requirements and everything, he will add these particular concepts into that one, right, to make a sustainable house or home or building. That's what the initial step that you have to follow.
So it is really important to consult an architect, isn't it?
Yeah. At the same time, when an architect undertakes such a job, there are few key things that they will look at, about even a sustainable site.
All right.
Right, and perhaps
water efficiency.
You mean the construction site itself?
Yes.
Yes.
While constructing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
How even from a selection of a site. Right, it's a key factor also.
Yeah, it's
placed. And at the same time, like
energy
efficiency of that, water usage,
material.
right, and especially how you use the materials. Right?